I once had a coworker named Stanley who was a top producer from Remax for many years. As an aspiring young professional, I tried to shadow the best and learn as much as I can. After working with Stanley for several months, I noticed something unsettling. I realized that he is an effective and efficient salesperson. He does whatever it takes to get properties into contracts. However, he didn't waste any time with the customers once they sign a contract with him. He also doesn't socialize with anyone unless it benefited him. When he wanted something from you, it would be obvious. Even as an inexperienced professional, I had the intuition that this approach of doing business is not sustainable, but he was putting in big numbers. Stanley was averaging 20 properties per year. I only sold 10 properties the same year I worked with him. Who do you prefer to be? Give and Take, A Revolutionary Approach to Success by Adam Grant. This book shares a revolutionary approach to becoming successful that everyone should practice. Here are 3 big ideas from this book that will change the way you interact with people. Number 1, takers versus givers. A taker is someone who is only focused on oneself. Everything they do have to benefit them, otherwise they won't bother. A giver is someone who focuses on self-interest along with the interests of others who are involved. For example, a taker will only talk to you when they need something. If they do something for you, it has to benefit them. A giver is more focused on how he or she can help you while seeking help from you. Grant argues that everyone has a dominant model that determines his or her behavior as a taker or giver. In business, it is very logical to be a taker since you are out to make a profit. Your goal is to spend as little time and make the most money possible. Even in business school, you are taught to focus on effectiveness and efficiency. Looking after others' interests is a contradiction to the basics of business. Throughout my years as a real estate professional, I have met a lot of salespeople. 80% of the salespeople I meet focus on personal gain. They try to charge the customers as much as possible while doing the least amount of work. A few of them are very good at it too. For a few years, I will watch as they dominate the sales market. They will hit high numbers for 1 to 2 years, and then they are no longer able to sustain their sales number. Majority of them either become average or are completely out of business. The 20% of the salespeople who survive in business all adopt a form of giving, which explains their longevity. Moreover, the top salespeople in the business are all givers. Number 2, takers only experience temporary success. Givers are usually at the top of a profession. I once had to make a very difficult decision. I worked with another realtor on a small sale where I was in control of how much commission I want to split with the other realtor. We were at the closing and the other realtor wanted a fairer split. He was okay at first until he learned that my office and I are keeping 80% of the commission while he was only getting 20% for half of the work. What made matters worse was that it was a small sales, so there wasn't enough to go around. If I wanted to, I could just say that this is what we agreed on and that is what you're getting. In fact, that is what my boss insists we do. However, I couldn't overlook the fact that he did work very hard and it was a very unfair split. I decided to give him a third of my commission that I was entitled to. I really needed the money then and didn't have to give him anything. I decided to give him a better split because I knew that I am going to be in the business for a long time. I also knew that one day I might need his help again. Before I know it, I had another condo in the building for sale a year later. It was a hard sale where I didn't have a buyer. This realtor brought me a buyer and made a smooth transaction without questioning me on anything. I also earned more in the second sale. Had I taken the taker's approach, my success would have been temporary. Number 3, overcoming doormat effect. Doormat effect is when a giver becomes successful by giving to all people, but usually burn out because people are takers in disguise. It may seem logical to spread out your giving and give to everyone. However, if you're giving to takers, you will end up burning out since you will always be taken advantage of. Grant explains that this is the reason why some givers are at the top while some are at the bottom. Givers tend to see the best in everyone and sometimes get taken advantage of. My boss is a successful giver who constantly suffers from burnouts. Out of 10 salespeople who worked at her office, only one was a giver. The rest are takers who disguise themselves in various forms. At first, I couldn't understand why she couldn't grow her business and become one of the top businesses in the field. I soon realized that she was giving a lot to the right people along with a lot to takers, which explains why she experienced some success while getting set back at the same time. Reciprocity plays a huge role in my business. I have seen salespeople in my business demonstrate success for 1 to 2 years by taking all they can from their customers. They then slow down because their model relies on constantly finding new customers where they can take from. The real estate process can take 3 to 6 months. Building a relationship can sometimes take years. Customers will find out whether you're a giver or taker eventually, no matter how good you are at disguising. This is obviously the case since majority of the salespeople usually experience success for 1 to 2 years and then fade off. They also get very few referrals, almost no repeat business, and worst of all, complaints from customers. My boss suffers from giving to takers who constantly takes from her. 6 out of 10 salespeople in my office are now out of business because customers prefer to deal with givers. 2 of the salespersons are barely holding on. According to Grant's principle, she will continue to have outbursts of burnout unless she stops giving to takers and focus on the givers. Sometimes it is not easy to uncover takers since they have good disguises. Time will eventually reveal them. When you identify the taker, cut them off completely because you will end up getting burned out. To get to the top, you must give to the givers. I had the opportunity to meet the top salesperson of the business, Michael, a few years back and was surprised to see his openness to discuss with me his secrets and plans. It is uncommon since most salespeople I meet keep their success secrets to themselves. I always hear the same story from all the brokers who want to recruit me. They always brag about their success and accomplishments. They tell me how my addition will help them grow their business. Meanwhile, Michael approaches me by asking me about my business, what has been working for me and what hasn't. And then he shared with me his vision. His vision and openness was contagious. I felt an instant connection. After our meeting, I realized why he is so successful. How Michael approaches me is the same way how he approaches his customers. This is the same for the other brokers who approached me. Michael spent many years giving, and as a result, his customers end up giving back in form of referrals. His referrals compounded throughout the years, which explains his sustainable growth. I know a lot of salespeople who tries to replicate his success by being efficient. They spend as little time with a customer as possible and try to take as much as possible. It is no surprise why Michael is the top producing salesperson in my area. Adopt a giving attitude and give as much as possible. You will eventually get back in one form or another. Avoid giving to takers as much as you can. This is the most efficient way to success. Here's the final takeaway. Similar to the takers and givers in Grant's book, when I first started, Stanley was selling 20 properties per year while I sold 10 properties my first year. Today, Stanley is selling 10 properties or less. I am selling 20 plus and I am still growing. I gave all I can to my customers, coworkers, and people in the business. Over time, I started to get referrals and help in many forms. I cannot say the same for Stanley since I have always known of him as a taker. Just like in Grant's book, time will put the givers on the top and the takers in the middle. Thank you for watching this video. Please share and subscribe for more videos.